planning, research collaborations, and ethical norms governing research with Professor Shawkat Alam from Macquarie University. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's thank God for the Almighty who has given us His mercy and blessing so we can all gather virtually to join this webinar on strategic research planning, research collaboration, and ethical norms governing research. We thank you for your enthusiasm to join this seminar, both from the Zoom and YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, this webinar is conducted by the Center for Planners Development, Education, and Training. And the sessions with Professor Shawkat Alam today is the first PusbinTalk. PusbinTalk is a webinar series for planners in Indonesia to discuss current issues by inviting national and international speakers. And as mentioned in the poster, for all of the participants who join this seminar, there will be a chance to be selected as one of the 15 participants to join the follow-up workshop program in May. The program brief and participant general requirements will be explained at the end of the seminar. For today's seminar, Professor Shawkat Alam from Macquarie Law School will be our speaker, whose profile will be delivered by Pak Eko Wiji as a moderator. Good morning, Professor Shawkat Alam. Well, it's 9 a.m. here in Indonesia, and we thank you for your time and availability to join this seminar as a speaker. Thank you very much, Professor. And actually, Pak Wigno and Prof. Shawkat are best friends, and Macquarie and also Bappenas also has cooperated in many events and collaborations before. And this PusbinTalk series aims to provide the latest insights and knowledge on various topics relevant to the development planning in Indonesia, such as public policy, spatial planning, environmental, and also for the upskilling program, such as today's topic, the research writing upskilling program. We hope after this seminar, the participants would have a glimpse at conducting analysis, design, implementation, evaluations, and result-oriented based on research. Hopefully, this seminar also expected to benefit the participants in increasing the capacity and quality of development planning in Indonesia and opening opportunities for wider cooperation and networking among planners. So, ladies and gentlemen, before jumping to the opening main lecture, let me tell you about the agenda of the seminar. Here is the agenda. For the first, we would like to invite Pak Wigno to do the opening speech, and then we would like to hear the speaker introduction from Pak Eko Wiji. And then we also would have Pak Shawkat Alam to do the lecture on strategic research planning, research collaboration, and ethical norms governing research. And then we would like to invite the participants to do the Q&A session. And then we would have a wrap-up session and also the workshop announcement. And we will do some kinds of door prize sessions that would be done by roulating the attendance list. So please, all of the participants, kindly fill out the attendance list that has been shared by the committee on the Zoom chat. And then after that, we would like to invite Pak Wigno again to do the closing speech from the head of CPDM. So that's all for our agenda. And then first of all, we encourage all of the participants again to fill out the attendance list distributed by the committee through the chat box. And the attendance list would be the basis for the committee to create a participant certificate for all of the attendees for today's seminar. And for the first agenda, we would like to invite Pak Wigno Adioso, the head of the Center for Planners Development, Education and Training, to give his opening speech of this seminar. For Pak Wigno Adioso, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Jelita. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to welcome our distinguished professor, Professor Shawkat Alam from the Macquarie University, Australia, and then also our distinguished moderator, Pak Eko Wiji Purwanto, Chief Planner from the Bappenas, as well as all of the participants, especially the planners, as well as the public audience. First of all, we also would like to thank to the God, the Almighty, who has given us mercy and blessing, especially during this Ramadan month. So happy Saum Ramadan, Professor Shawkat. So we are very glad that you become our part of this activities, especially our center. And then also we would like also to special thank Pak Eko who are spending your time to be a moderator to this webinar, the first PusbinTalk webinar, as well as the organizing committee, especially from the Center Planners Development Education and Training and Bappenas. So the main objective of this webinar actually is we would like to address to improve the quality of the capacity of the planners, especially for the planners who are working in central and local government to improve this capacity in the fields of the planning, in conducting research, to support the process of formulating public policies and capturing the dynamic of the current social problems. It also to improve the basic writing skills, actually, the research writing, strategic research planning, and to increase the understanding on how to spot the potential research collaboration. So in this area, actually, we would like also to understand the norms in conducting research and how to formulate the evidence-based policies or research-based policy. For your information, actually now Bappenas is managing 3 journals. Both is international and nationally the journal. The first is the Journal of Indonesian Sustainable Development Planning, or GISDEP, and then the Indonesian Journal of Development Planning, or GPP, and Bappenas Working Paper. So these are 3 of the journal now is already accredited by the SINTA, mostly in accredited 3, SINTA 3. So we would like to invite all of the participants after this webinar to submit your idea, your research, or your project to our journal so they can read in the wider public audience. Ladies and gentlemen, we also would like to inform Pak Shawkat, Professor Shawkat, that the Center for the Planners Development Education and Training Bappenas, at least we have 3 functions. The first, we are facilitating and fostering the functional planners, or the planners actually. And then we also conducting education and training to improve our capacity, especially the public servant who are working in the planning unit, as well as we also has main function to support the Bappenas main function as the formulating, the national formulating and integrator of the planning process nationwide. So in this kind of the activity or the webinar is to support or to address actually the main role of the Bappenas. So the main role of Bappenas actually we would like to increase the quality of the planning document. So now the planning document is require evidence-based policy that is close to how we use the data, how we actually to able using the information that basically how to identify, collect, process, and display data using to the formulating the national document as well as the local document. So that's why in this kind of this webinar, actually, it is just the started. So in the future, we would like also to expand the webinar, actually not only to provide the basic skill for the planners in terms of the writing, in terms of the conducting the research, but also we would like to expand in other improving the capacity related with the topic of the planning process. So again, we would like also to thank you again, Prof. Shawkat, to support us that the webinar can be conducted. And this webinar actually is not the one that we stop, but this webinar will be following up with the workshop, the short-term workshop, one-day workshop, and then one of the participant may be selected of the workshop in the next month, and you can also discuss and asking and consulting with the Professor Shawkat directly when the workshop conducting in Jakarta. So we hope that this webinar would bring positive and fruitful for the development effort of the planner competency across Indonesia. Thank you for your participation. Enjoy learning and discussion. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Om Santi Santi Om, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Thank you.
Thank you for the speech, Pak Wigno. And then we would like to continue the next agenda. But before we jump to the main agenda, we would like to invite all the participants to turn on the video. We would like to take a pictures together before the program starts. So please kindly, and for the team, Mas Dio or Mas Agung, please kindly screenshot us for the first slide. 1, 2, 3. We have 5 slides. Second slide. 1, 2, 3. Third slide. 1, 2, 3. Fourth slide. 1, 2, 3. Fifth slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's all. Thank you. Bapak Ibu, you can turn off the video again, or if you would like to turn on the video, it is also okay for us. So for today's agenda, we would have Bapak Eko Wiji, the Chief Planner from the Ministry of National Development Planning, to become our moderator today. And here is the short profile of Bapak Eko Wiji. Bapak Eko Wiji is a Chief Planner of our Ministry of National Development Planning, Bappenas, and he has received some awards for Satya Lancana Karya Satya. And after this, Pak Eko Wiji would also like to deliver and introduce Pak Shawkat Alam as our speaker today. So Pak Eko Wiji. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, the floor is yours, Pak.
Thank you, Bu Julita. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We already have a lot of explanation about PusbinTalk. Then this is series number 1, and we have distinguished speaker, Professor Shawkat Alam from University of Macquarie. Pak Shawkat, let me call you Pak Shawkat, is a full professor at law, special international and environmental law at Macquarie University, and he has a lot of extensive research on legal, international, sustainable development, international trade, and also environment law. He also collaborates with many Indonesian scholars. In fact, he will come to Indonesia next month visiting research with BRIN, Badan Riset BRIN apa ya Jelita BRIN?
National Research Agency.
Yeah, National Research. And during his stay in Indonesia next month, we will conduct sort of workshop following this webinar. Without further ado, I will invite Pak Shawkat to give us lecture on strategic research planning, research collaboration, and ethical norms of governing research. Please, Pak Shawkat, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Pak Ikubwiji, and those who are listening to me. I would like to acknowledge my gratitude and my thanks to Bapanas and particularly Pak Wignew to invite me to this inaugural series of webinars. And it's a privilege and honor to be able to share some of the ideas, thoughts, and also to learn more from your experience through this webinar process. Today we are talking about broadly about strategic research planning, research collaboration, and the ethical aspects of research. I hope you can understand me and you can hear me properly. If there is any issue, just let me know. But this is, I would like to make it a lot of an interactive session where we, in a simple way, we would like to uncover how research landscaping is changing globally. Also, you will see how it is relevant to the Indonesian context. As I have learned that the objective of this webinar is also to help the capacity building of researchers and the policymakers involved in the organization, and where I heard that the focus is also the quality of the research, evidence-based policymaking, and the 3 journals we have just heard from Pak Wignew that you are all encouraged to share your ideas and thoughts and your publications through those journals. It's an outlet. So I think my talk today will focus on some aspects of the research environment, research culture, and more specifically, one individual's strategic research planning and how those strategic research planning could be implemented in the areas of your publications, your supervision, your grant, and also what are the ethical aspects, what are the ethical norms that we need to know in the exercise of our own research and in informing the research collaboration and so on. So why is strategic research? I think I would like to focus on the institutional factors for the strategic research, whether it's a Bapanas, whether it's BRIN, whether it's university. The things are changing, as you know, that the education marketplace is changing because of the globalizations, and we can see that even in Bapanas, we can see that our outputs need to be evidence-based, and we also need to think about how we can do our research, which is kind of integrated and is based on societal needs and values. So as a reason for this sort of change, we can see that the traditional disciplines and functional distinctions between universities, laboratories or industries, these are changing. we are all now interconnected, and we cannot maintain the traditional boundary that, okay, we are in the university, we are researchers, but the industries are doing their work, and the governments are providing their support and policy. However, we can see that these are all now a complex networks in the research space where universities, government, industry, and research users are all interconnected, interrelated. And there is no functional distinctions now in terms of the research, in terms of the research actors. So as far as university is concerned, that strategic research allows universities to engage in research programs which achieve goals other than the development of knowledge, including identification of areas of competitive advantage or diversification of revenue streams. So we have seen that universities are now increasingly, they have identified their areas of strengths and where they can show that they are well placed to fill a particular research gap in the society because of their expertise, because of their research strengths. So I can see that there is a need for cross-disciplinary research. There is a need for collaborations, cross-institutional collaboration, industry, government, and to identify new research trends. So traditionally, as you all know, that universities, what we do, academic researchers, university leaders, research managers, they undertake research across the full spectrum of fundamental and applied research, and in disciplines across science, technology, social science, humanities, and creative arts. Now, there is a need now that the research that we are doing, we need to show that how those research are actually contributing to the societal gains and benefit, and how increasingly we have to justify how these research are relevant to the industry and end users. Why? Because we need to look at how businesses, entrepreneurs, researchers, investors, or cultural institutions, or museums or libraries undertake or invest in and use research to generate economic, social, environmental, and cultural impact. So we need to, whether we do it through citations, whether we do it through innovation, whether we do it through technology development, we need to show that our research have some values, some impact for the industry and research end users. So I think here, universities and research institutions also like to see that any individuals, those who are doing the research, they have actually a strategic research plan, that their research plan and individuals' researchers' plan are actually aligned with the organization's research plan and priorities and strategies. I'll come back to this point very soon, but we wanted to see that in Australia, the way it works, that university, when they have the strategic research plan, then they expect the academics and researchers will develop their own strategic plan, which is aligned with the university research plan and strategic plan. So it's interconnected. And we can see that university then develop curriculum or program level outcomes and graduate skills, which reflect that the strategic priorities. Like I give you an example, that when we ask a student that, okay, you have done your undergraduate. In the undergraduate, if a student has completed the undergraduate is a program. So what sort of outcomes or graduate skills you can expect from a graduate who has completed undergraduate? So we then distribute that program level outcomes into individual unit or programs. So for example, if we consider that a law graduate will have critical thinking skills, we will have analytical skills, we will have leadership skills, we will have research skills. These are all then embedded in the individual unit level or program level. So that's how we can see that university research, strategic research is also implemented through supportive teaching practices, that's supervision, mentoring, and philosophies, and so on and so forth. And it is not just a top-down approach. It is actually top-down and bottom-up, the consultation. Then we are all together as a network to promote or to implement that sort of research strategy for the institution. So that's where individual is very much part of the organizational strategic research priority. These are all interconnected, interrelated. So it's really interesting if you look at the national research priorities. Government also have the national research priorities. In Australia, I'm sure the Indonesia also have national research priorities that the research is conducted in particular areas of importance for the society. And in Australia, we have national strategic research priorities to guide institutions in developing their research agenda. So there's national priorities include food, soil, water, transport, cybersecurity, energy, resources, manufacturing, environmental change, and health. So this is that it shows again that the individual research that we are doing, it is not in isolation. It is not in vacuum. It is in the context of we are all then supporting our national research priorities through our own research. Universities, academics, researchers, industries, they all are now interacting so that they can promote national research priorities, because these priorities is developed in consultation with industry, research, and government leaders, which is designed to focus government investment for science and research on the most important challenges. And it will also help science and research efforts reflect the needs of industry, the economy, and the community. So it is that this high-level stuff. That's what I wanted to see, that where we are doing at our, individual level, how it is actually gradually integrated into the broader level, institutional and also national level. These are all interconnected and interrelated. So here we mentioned that the why, when we established that this individual research is very much linked to the institutional research priorities and national research priorities, then there is a need for research collaboration. Individual must do the research collaboration, because that collaboration could be some areas which are interdisciplinary, or you are collaborating not only just with university colleagues or researchers, but you're also collaborating with the society, the research institutions, the university, the industry, with government agencies, and so on and so forth. So there is a push, and it has been there for the past 10 years, 15 years, that the academic researchers, they must collaborate with industry partners. Industry partners like businesses, entrepreneurs, investors, where you can collaborate, and it has benefits two ways, that it is both for the institutions, and it's actually mutually supportive, that industry gains from the research collaboration, as well as university gains from the research collaboration between university and industry. However, it is quite challenging. It is still, in Australian context, is still evolving and not yet widespread. Why? Because many factors, the cultural differences between academia and businesses, researchers and business, there are, the cultural difference, and also it is not possible for many small and medium enterprises to do their own research. It is very expensive. We also often rely on foreign innovation. That through research we drive the innovation. We drive the when you have the patent, any technology development or any innovation, it comes through the research. And industry collaboration provides that much needed innovation, through that sort of collaboration. So I can see that the research collaboration is evolving, but it is really challenging because of so many cultural challenges and funding, and also the real constraints of small and medium enterprises to do their research from their side. So modern research is involving diverse partnerships to explore shared investigative objectives with external entities. So as I mentioned before, is research institutions, government, and industry. One of the reasons historically, industry investment into university research collaboration. So you will see that many well-established universities have research projects which has been funded by industry because it's a joint collaboration. And that's where research and development actually follows. Effective collaboration allows researchers to connect with the end users of the output and identify further research questions for future research and development. So there are many models of effective collaboration, and depend upon the governance arrangements of the research institution, strategic direction and objectives of external collaborators. So this is a model from Malaysia, how this research collaboration works with the industry in Malaysia. So you can see that at the top is the university, and then you can see that the government, how the government agencies, government actually fund those research and provide advice, infrastructure, and to undertake research to deliver the impact. And then how you can see that at the industry level, our research and development in the large companies, laboratory development of new product through university, consultation, funding, research contract, commercialization, knowledge transfer. These are all, you can see that how these are interconnected, the different agencies and their outputs, how also they actually provide a holistic the approach of any research and innovation. So benefits of industry research collaboration, as I mentioned, that it allows for significant return on investment and ability to scale up projects, the potential diversification of funding and revenue streams for the university that through successful patents, increased access to highly specialized industry infrastructure, knowledge and techniques, increased agility to pursue secondary research. Students and researchers gain a focused experience with industries relevant to their research area. Students and researchers expand their network and build long-term relationships for future collaboration. So these are some of the benefits. But as I mentioned, there are challenges to effective collaboration, cultural differences I mentioned before. One of the most important things and difference is research institutions measure success by research impact metrics, including citations, whereas industry is looking for immediate, cost-effective solutions like a product or innovation or maybe patent. So industry may wish to prevent open disclosure or publication of results in order to develop intellectual property rights and patents. This is the very nature of the research happening at the industry level. And at the university and research organizations, early career researchers face significant time constraints to teach, publish, and maintain collaborative relationships, and small and medium enterprises in the industry also face time constraints and find it difficult to balance research and development with their day-to-day operations. So I think it is in terms of research collaboration, strategic research collaboration. So there are rules for establishing a successful industry collaboration. And it is evolving. It is really new to the academic context. I have been teaching for the past 20 years, and I can tell you only handful of academics are able to establish this sort of research collaboration beyond university, with the engagement with the industry and other entrepreneurs or non-government organizations or other institutions other than the university. So we need to feel, because the cultural side is that academics or researchers need to feel the need to collaborate. They need to understand that, from collaborations, you can have interdisciplinary research. Collaboration can enhance your network. Collaboration can provide you the much needed impact. Also understanding that collaboration is risky. It is not straightforward. You have to be guided by sort of ethical frameworks as well, that the collaboration is objective, is who is benefiting from this collaboration, and is it done through a particular framework, governed by a particular framework. Finding the right partners, leveraging the existing relationships, common ground with external partners. What's the common ground? Often our research is so different from the need of the industry. So we need to find that sort of where I can pitch that my research interests will have synergies with the industry. Invest in the relationships. It's also, networking is the relationship, how you develop that sort of relationship where you can talk about the collaborations and identify and support champions and sponsors of research. You need to look at not necessarily all friendships, all relationships will eventuate in sort of collaboration. So we need to look at that, which collaborations or which relationships is actually time wasting and not effective. So we need to close down sort of ineffectual partners. Communicate effectively with any new partners regarding expectations and objectives. How you manage expectations, sometimes when you're coming from two different contexts, disciplines, you need to make it really clear that where do we draw the line? Where do you find these sort of synergies? And how we measure, monitor, and communicate the outcome of this research collaboration. So that's about the industry, the need for the research collaboration and the culture, how things are changing, the big picture stuff. Now I would like to focus on the individual research plans, that how these individual research plans must be aligned with this sort of big picture, organizational strategy, priorities, national research priorities, and so on and so forth. So the benefits of individual research plan is also that it is long-term. It is not just ad hoc. It is not just you research or my research is not just a publication, one publication. If it is approached that way, it is very much short-term. It is not long-term, and it is not strategic. So strategic research plans will actually ask an individual to think about their research agenda. What is the research agenda? What is their 3 to 5 years goal in terms of the research? And you can break it down to that the research agenda includes their plans for research publications, what they will publish, where they will publish, which field they will publish, and will this publication come from collaboration? Will this publication will be joint research? Will this publication will come from a research project? And that's how you can see that these publication plans, research proposals with these publications will be coming from higher degree research students or PhD students. Or are you doing your own PhD as a researcher? So if you want to do your own PhD, because a PhD is a research training, then how will you develop your research proposals, in which areas? Collaboration ideas, who you will be collaborating with? What are your plans for grant? Is there any project that you can develop with colleagues and that project can lead to a grant application, research grant. So what's your supervision plans? What's your plan for national and international engagement for your research impact? So these are a range of things could be included one individual's strategic research plan. So now if I talk about in the strategic research plan also can include evidence of leadership in a research field, that how you have demonstrated that your research has an impact, and you have been invited, or you have been contributing to the broader research because of your quality, because of what you have demonstrated, it is recognized. So it is also needed so that institution can provide the support so that your research is fully supported, and you have given this sort of a roadmap by the institution so that your research is just 3 to 5 years plan. They can also look at your personal development plans. Your personal development plans, and it is aligned with your own personal development goals and plans. So that's the reason, as I mentioned, institutions is vital. They can assess whether a proposed project also will align with the institution's strategic direction. Remember, I mentioned that your individual research plan will be aligned with your organization's strategic directions and national research priority, and so on and so forth. And institutions can deploy research support or responsibilities to specific faculty members, and can track your research performance as well. So it is, personally speaking, this research plan, strategic research plan, is more benefiting to the individual researchers than the institution. Because an individual researcher, for their research performance, for their research trajectory, without having a clear plan, a clear vision, a clear agenda, often we are lost. Often we have too many different priorities. We are moving from one area to another area. We have no idea what sort of support we can get from the institutions, whether it is providing, it is aligned with the universities or institutions' strategic goals, and how I can actually track, monitor my own research, and I can then build up on the research that I have done. Maybe I can then build up, and I can review in 2 years' time, and can revise my strategy. So it is quite of a strategic, approach in individuals' research performance and research development. So as I said, that it's not only just publication. Research is not just publication. One way we can appreciate that how industries are changing, our research plan must include those aspects that my publications, my project, my grants, my supervision, these are all interrelated and integrated in my research plan. So when I have, when individual has a research plan that is actually quite holistic and quite comprehensive. So that's the research need for strategic research plan I mentioned. Now the strategic research plan, if you want to implement the bits and pieces of the strategic research plans, for example, I mentioned that you must have a publication plan. You must have a PhD or supervision plan. You must have a plan for grants. You must have a plan for collaboration. So individually, I will focus on very briefly on those individual aspects. And I hope I have at least another 20 minutes to 30 minutes. Okay, thank you. So it is, often we see that many of our researchers, they become PhD students. And when you become a PhD student, the highest level of that, higher degree research, it's a research degree, it's a research training. And it starts with your proposal. Then I received a lot of proposals from my prospective students that, Professor, I would like to do research under your supervision. Okay, this is, then I said, okay, give me your proposal, and then I would at least know that what you want to do, and what is the research question that you have, and what is, how you will carry out that research, what is the methodology, and whether this research will actually fill any gap. How your research is original. It's not only just providing literature review and putting together a summary of the literature review. I would like to see that you have some ideas that you would like to execute and nobody has done it in the past. If it is all about literature review, then where is your voice? Other people have done it, and it's not just summary or providing a synopsis of other people's work. Of course, I can draw from other people's work, but I need to have my own ideas that how I can do my research proposal. Often we see the research proposal suffering from the same problem, that it lacks organization and structure, it lacks focus and coherence, being often repetitive, and often no citation of the influential sources, no up-to-date literature, and more often there is no critical engagement with the literature. Critical engagement, and it is often that it is, as I said, is just a descriptive survey of the issues. Collaboration plans, as I mentioned, that there are few things you need to think about when you talk about the collaboration, that we need to feel the need for collaboration. And collaboration plan should include that what is the rationale for the collaboration? Why should I collaborate? Because as an individual, my research will be strengthened. Often it is the case of the research where there is interdisciplinary component involved. So maybe I'm looking at one theoretical side, maybe I can then involve a colleague, a researcher, to cover the empirical aspect, the data and investigation, so that we can complement each other. Often collaboration also means that whether I'm ready for collaboration we need to look at how we can actually fill a particular gap or the scope of the research that demands that collaboration. So from institutional side as well, there are at a bigger level of collaborations, it depends on how it is framed. Often in the collaboration down the track come the question of conflict prevention and management, budget and resource allocation, training, and so on and so forth. So these are the things we need to look at first when we do our collaboration planning. It will not just something that you jump on with somebody without looking at all the positive or potential challenges when you develop a project, how the project will be implemented, who will implement it, what is my part there, if there is any conflict, if there is any issues, how we will manage it, what are the resource allocation. So those sort of stuff we need to look at carefully when we do this collaboration planning. Now the supervision. So I guess some of you are also as supervising students or supervising research. It could be applied quite generally. It does not have to be in the university setting that you are a supervisor and you have students, but supervision also involves that a researcher-supervisor relationship. That doesn't have to be a student. It could be, you could be a supervisor of a research team, and then how you deal with those sort of, this is often what I'm mentioning here, it is coming from my own experience because I'm a professor and I'm supervised as a PhD supervisor, but equally it could be, these could be applied to other settings where you are not supervising PhD students, but you are supervising researchers in a much bigger the context. So effective supervision plans include open, clear lines of communication between parties, early intervention when we can see that when I can see students are going off track and not within the scope of the research, then it's early intervention by the supervisor, saves the time from both sides. Clear instructions on how to resolve any research issues, opportunities to engage in regular constructive criticism of written work. And it is quite structured, actually, supervision, because it is, we have a protocol we have developed that, it is quite expected when the meetings will take place and how frequently those meetings will be done. The students will provide their written work on the research matters, and the supervisors will provide the sort of constructive criticism on the written work, record keeping and documentation of all those, the meetings and what have been discussed in those meetings and what, progress been shared in the meeting and next, course of action is all recorded. So I think there is also a logical system of notification if the supervisor feels that performance has been unsatisfactory. At what point, if you feel that the person you are supervising not actually making the progress, then you just don't flag it immediately. There is a system in place how you can do sort of mediation and consultations, to minimize those aspects. A big part of supervision, the way it is approached, particularly how I approach it, is actually your mentoring. Supervision is actually the mentoring, and it's not only just reading students or researchers research or draft, but also how you provide them some the mentoring advice, which will lead to students' own development or researchers' own development. So I think it is intensive in that way that, you share as a supervisor, you share your ideas, your experience, your knowledge, and, you help them develop their own research agenda, become a researcher, through this sort of guided process. We take it a scaffolding approach that we handhold for a time period, and we would like to see that student or that researcher is becoming an independent researcher down the track. So it is not on just a thesis in itself. It is much bigger than, producing just at the end of the candidature a thesis. So if we approach it as a mentoring, then it is more than just, commenting on your draft. It is overall, you treat the researcher as part of your research network, and you help them develop their own research agenda through your expertise and through the guidance. So many practices involved in effective supervision. Some of them include ensuring that this is a right partnership for the project, assessing the needs of the project when you take on the students or researcher, establishing the at early stage the expectation. That what is the expectation? It is quite clear that you establish reasonable and agreed expectations that, well, I expect that you will provide, every fortnight, and like the way I implement it, my PhD students, every fortnight, they will have to give me 500 words, written words on their topic. So that's sometimes I make those expectations clear in the beginning. And what is the conceptual structure, research plan that you guide students to write early and often, regular contact, and also how you can involve them or include them in the research culture of the department or the university or the institution, so that they can see the big picture, and take an active interest in a student's own life and career. And monitor the final production and presentation of the research. So I think what I wanted to mention that this is quite a process when you look at the supervision and the publication. It is not something you can do just ad hoc, all of a sudden, and bits and pieces. That re-emphasizes the need for a strategic plan, research plan for an individual. Okay, so in the publication plan, now I would like to mention that in the publication plan, as I briefly highlighted, that your publication plan will include that where you are looking at yourself in the 3 to 5 years time, and is it, the areas of your research, and these areas of research, what you can perhaps, publish from that area of research, and how you will do that. That essentially includes that you have a deliberate strategy that this is the area of my research, that's where I will be involving in next to 3 to 5 years, and then breaking this down to individual element or an aspect of this research which is maybe evolving. There is a gap in the literature where I can have a quick publications, because it is when I look at the gap, when I look at the situation now, I can get a publication from that particular angle. Then you need to devise those structures well ahead of time that will demonstrate your 3 to 5 years publication plan. So, and that publication could be in a range of ways. It's not only just a big, imagine what sort of publications you're talking about. If you talk about a manuscript, a book, it will take more than a year to write a book. But there are a lot of different aspects of the publication. So you need to, whether I'm writing a short piece, I'm writing a opinion pieces, op-ed, I'm writing a journal article, I'm writing a book chapter, I'm writing a conference paper. These are all part of your publication plan. And then one of the plans is also that, are you also maximizing your publication through co-authoring? Are you, and remember, the co-authoring is also that dimension that you are networking, you are collaborating. So your networking and collaboration will demonstrate through your co-authoring of a pieces. That so if you do the co-authoring, who you will do it, in which areas, how you complement with each other, so work. These are the things I earlier mentioned. Most important thing in the co-authoring is also that it's also the ethical questions, that who can be a co-author. So often there are a lot of problems here that when we work in a team, 5 people, particularly mostly in the science model, we have heard that a lot of people are involved in the work. Often in the supervisor-student relationship, is supervisor is the most powerful, and student is the weaker part of that relationship. Then, if supervisor becomes the primary author, not doing much work, how ethical is that? And that's we have also a guideline about the authorship attribution. So to be eligible to be an author of a research output, a person must have been involved directly in its creation by making a substantial intellectual and scholarly contribution. So I give my example. If I have 5 PhD students. If I ask PhD students, okay, give me your chapter, I look at their chapter and said, okay, I have helped you, I provided you guidance in writing the chapter. So when you publish, my name would be there. This is not appropriate in my view, because unless I have contributed intellectually and scholarly, otherwise it's my students' work. I cannot put my name in there. So it is there is a protocol now in Australia that under which context a author would be eligible to be an author of a research output. So one has to provide intellectual and scholarly contribution in conceiving or designing the project or output, or in data acquisition, where this has involved significant intellectual judgment, planning, design, or input, contributing knowledge, where justified including indigenous knowledge, analyzing or interpreting data, or writing or critically revising significant parts of the intellectual content of the research output to the extent that this contributes to its interpretation. So once, if we know that these are the specific guidelines, you know, to be followed when we do the co-author, that helps, you know. I think I've already mentioned that the publication plans includes seminar and paper presentation. So, and I'll come to this point very soon, that the importance of seminar and paper presentation and conferences, that our researchers, you know, those who are in the government or outside governments, the conferences provide that sort of opportunities where you can test your ideas, you know, and you present your idea. It is still developing, and you can perhaps get the feedback from your peers. And this is two-dimensional. You can get the feedback from your peers, which will help you improve your paper, but also that you are emerging as a scholar, as a researcher, through that network. People know that you are the one who is researching in this particular area, and then you broaden your network. And subsequently, some of the conference presentations, you know, will be then peer-reviewed and published in a journal. And you get an opportunity also to publish your paper in a peer-reviewed journal. Now, publishing, there are certain things I would like to highlight very briefly, that what you need to look at when you publish. It is these days, increasingly we hear the word quality. It's not the quantity, it's also quality. It's not how many papers you have published, it's actually where you have published, and what's their quality, and whether they are cited, whether they are in Scopus journal, whether they are, you know, recognized in a top tier Q1 ranked journals. These are the things we are now increasingly facing when you look at the journal articles and publications, not only just journal, but also the book publishers, the commercial publishers, their ranking. So why publish? I always push my students to publish, although my PhD students, I take this deliberate approach that you have to try to publish every single chapter of your thesis. And the reason behind is that, well, the chapter that you are doing, the conceptual chapter, it could be the theoretical framework. And, you know, if you publish or if you submit for publication, even if it is not published, you get referee reports, free review reports, you know, on the weakness or strength of your paper, which will, of course, will help you improve your work if you take into account those feedbacks in addition to your supervisor. It is, if you have already put the time and effort in writing the chapter, why not publish? Because it will demonstrate that your work is recognized by your peers, and you are building your CV. If I have a couple of publications in the that shows that, you know, my research is not only just, you know, I'm talking about my research, but I have evidence to demonstrate that my research has quality, my research is accepted by my peers, and also the impact you can demonstrate. If your research is cited, you know, then you can show that the impact of your research. You can provide a contribution to the field that way. And I think also your writing skills, you know, your writing improves the more you publish. You know, I remember my early publications when 20 years ago, and when I look at my publications now, it's a constant improvement. Your writing is a constant improvement because you are often given this feedback from the journal editors and reviewers that the particular way you write, particular way you present your argument, your evidence, they are so sophisticated. And when you receive those feedbacks from multiple sources and you actually incorporate those things, you improve. It's a continuous process of improvement. Unless you publish, unless you submit your paper for peer review, you don't get this sort of feedback. I can be a self-proclaimed, the scholar, but it has to be then backed up by my peers. They must recognize me as as a scholar in the field. Otherwise, I cannot simply say that if there is no quality element here, if there is no review. So normally it starts with the publication. It starts with the very idea of a topic, what to publish, and which aspect you need to look at in your publication. So of course, you look at that. First of all, when you look at the topic, you balance your interest with usefulness to the profession. Where the topic has been covered, has been published before, what I'm adding new to the topic. Is it novel? Novelty is something that, is it, addressing an emerging area or recent area? There is a gap. Nobody has done it before. It is very topical. It is evolving now. So people can hear the different dimensions from my writing. New way of looking at an issue. It can be an old issue. It can be settled matter, but you are looking at it from a totally new perspective, from a different angle. Or you are looking at a particular methodology. Methodology could also be novel. It could be a new way to solve the problem. That is also the originality component. It is often not too broad or not too narrow. So then you look at where can I submit my paper? Often it determines if is the right journal, because the journal will have the particular thing they are publishing. Some journals will be publishing particular area of research. It does not necessarily mean that your work does not have the merit or standing. It simply does not fit within the scope of a journal. So journal looking at this or selecting the right journal, you look at, which journal, and you often look at the editorial board, look at, what sort of research being published in the journal. Then you can get an idea whether your topic you're thinking about would fit within that journal, whether this journal has a national focus or international focus. Sometimes if your paper is domestic issue or national issue, and it is not looking at the international issue, and if you submit the paper to an international journal, it is unlikely that your paper will be accepted because that journal focus is international, not national. So these are the things you need to target the paper to suit the journal. They will have particular expectations, and you read what the journal wants in their publication. So that way you can minimize that aspect. Some of the very brief research tips when you write it, we look at of course, literature review, we often look at the primary sources, not the secondary sources. These days, we look at a lot of research based on only secondary sources. So if it is all about secondary sources, then research often is very weak. We cannot substantiate. Research currency in research is vital. That is how far you have gone in a literature review. Is it dated? You have done the literature 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So you need to be able to look at the currency of your research, that you are doing it, most recent as it is happening. Cross-checking your research, and of course, I'll touch on this one soon about the need for footnotes and references. So be clear about your contribution to the literature. And when you are writing the literature review, as I mentioned before, that what is your position here? It is not only a summary of the things. You have a particular idea, and you are bringing the literature to support your idea, to engage with the literature. So, and when you do this sort of the writing, of course, you have a structure. Your arguments will be followed logically and coherently, and then when it is done, you have to have multiple drafts before you submit a polished manuscript. Because I look at, from my own experience, I've seen that if you submit your first draft to a journal, often it is very, very in a draft stage. It needs that level of the polishing, not only just in your ideas, but also how those ideas are supported and how you have actually expressed your ideas. So whether accuracy, your brevity, clarity, and style. There are journals where they will particularly mention the formatting style, citation style. So you need to follow the journal style when you actually cite references. Most importantly, in an article, what I see in my discipline, it is often if you have a particular argument that you have highlighted that you will present, whether it is supported, whether you have provided counter arguments, whether you have actually engaged critically with the literature and providing your own narratives and arguments with evidence. So, is the paper that you have written, is it publishable? This is often the comment you receive from the editor.
Please wrap it on 5 minutes, Pat.
I have 5 minutes. Okay, yes. Then I have to run fast. And okay, I think perhaps I have talked about these publications, but maybe you can look at the slides, the other narratives, because if I want to go through all the dimensions of the publications, it will take longer. Let me skip a couple of things. What the editors look at in the publication, they look at the suitability of the paper, significance of the paper, they look at the originality of the paper, and also quality of content, strengths and weakness, readability. So these are the things you need to be mindful when you look at your own publications, write the draft for submission to a journal or as a book chapter. So ethical norms governing research, it is particularly valid for our the subcontinent. It includes me. When I came from, originally, I'm originally from Bangladesh. I was there, 30 years ago. I was a university lecturer in Bangladesh. And I'm very familiar with the system that you also follow in your system, Indonesian system, in academic system, the research and writing and governance. So I feel that this part is currently not well emphasized in our culture in South and Southeast Asia, the ethics and need for that sort of the ethical aspect in the research. So I think, why the research is, as you know, that the research is conducted or for searching knowledge, right? For searching knowledge and understanding, and it has to be then followed by certain regulatory frameworks, and that regulatory framework is called ethical framework. So in Australia, we have National Statement on Ethical Conduct in Human Research, and human research is conducted with or about people or their data or their tissue. So how to do those sort of the research? So it is quite comprehensive framework that we refer to and we engage when we do our research. It meaning that, it is looking at the research merit and integrity. And even if we look at our empirical work, we interview people, we actually obtain information, then it is done through a particular process that we conduct research honestly. We follow recognized principles of research conduct, and also we disseminate and communicate research in a way that actually contribute to public knowledge and understanding. It is not actually violating individuals' privacy, or it is not violating national security, because research, as you know, is quite broad, and we need to look at, when we do this sort of cross-disciplinary research, we look at their impact on the society. Could be an individual group, could be indigenous people, and so on and so forth. So we find these sort of ethical dilemmas when we have this research in areas of human rights, social justice, governance, institutions, social policy, gender and equity, also obtaining informed consent. The people who are you engaging with, whether you have got their informed consent, privacy and confidentiality. In each of those areas, it's so vital that we actually follow certain things and code of conduct that will then help the research in an ethical manner. So there are many reasons why achieving ethical research is desirable, including that promotes the aims of the research, such as obtaining the truth. As research involves significant cooperation or collaboration, ethical standards promote values that are essential for collaboration, allows researchers to be accountable to the public, allows output to receive public support. So now, just very briefly in 1 minute, you all are familiar with the ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence now in the research. And it is quite a challenge now for us, the researchers, that how we show our integrity. And our academics, we did a survey in our own courses. We have seen that 40% of the answers students can instantly get from ChatGPT. So it is also the plagiarism. So it's like, how you are getting the information and are not acknowledging. So it is a new challenge for all of us. But for research, I think the ethical norms, I'm talking about much bigger level, that, you're talking about the intellectual property. You're talking about the different sort of agents, those who are involved in research funding. We need to know whether their objective, like corporations or private sector, whether their funding has any ulterior objective. They want that sort of research output to suit their agenda. These are the stuff that it violates the ethical guidelines of the research. So I think individual researcher must be aware of the ethical norms governing research. I have provided the reasons, and at least in our writing publication strategy, we need to look at that we are not actually being accused of plagiarism, that we are passing on other people's work without acknowledgement. And in the context of also ChatGPT, it is quite alarming. So I will have to stop now because of the time constraint. Happy to expand on any issues if you have any questions. Other than that, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Pak Shawkat. Let us give you a big applause. This is kind of like 1 hour lecture and very much comprehensive, because you also, how do you call it? We talk about the macro and micro of the research, from the changing landscaping into collaboration, into sort of, why don't we publish? And also reminder, how should we write it? I mean, plagiarism is not big no, something like that. We already have 3, 4, 5. Oh, I will invite those who already raised their hands. But if I may recommend you, starting from Ibu Nazla, just keep it simple, straight, so everybody can give some question. So no worries about how long you mentioned, but directly what Professor Shawkat should answer. Can we start from Ibu Nazla?
Hello, is my voice can be heard?
Yeah. Keep it simple, straight, ya Bu, so that Pak Shawkat can answer many questions.
All right, thank you for the opportunity. I have a question for Mr. Shawkat. How to avoid getting involved in activity that have a conflict of interest or interest bias to reduce entry into research? Well, now there are many emerging political interests, and how collaboration can prevent that bias by opening up new perspective at understanding social value by maintaining honesty and objectivity at research. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Azla. Pak Shawkat, you would like to have some question, or you will answer it one by one? If I may, I suggest at least we have 2 or 3 questions so that you can directly answer more than one question.
Yes.
Okay. Pak Satya Laksana. Pak Satya.
Thank you for the opportunity. Is my voice here?
Yeah, a bit small, but okay.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask about research collaboration. Pak Shawkat, who should be the first initiator to make a research proposal? And who is the conductor of a research collaboration project? Because I see a thick knowledge barriers among the government, universities, and industries or businesses. They have their own interests and priorities. So how to integrate and synergize those interests, and how to maintain the parties' engagement? Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Pak Laksana. Mas Darendra?
Yes, thanks, Pak Eko. Many thanks, Pak Shawkat, for the excellent presentation. Your slides are very important, especially for us who would like to undertake the further higher educations. But my question, I would like to hear more from you, actually. Actually, most of us attending here are not really researchers. Well, probably only very few. So apart from those who are researchers, for me, like, for instance, planners and some others, officials, they do not have luxury. They do not have time. They do not have resources, even access to literatures to undertake the study or publish an article. What would you suggest for this context? Many thanks. Makasih, Pak Eko.
Okay, thank you, Pak Darendra. We already have 3 questions.
3 questions, okay.
And hopefully your answer will, how do you call it, explain many future questions.
Okay, thank you so much for answering this, so asking those questions. I think, first of all, what you mentioned that there are emerging issues, so, there are so the issue there, they may have some political dimensions. There would be how we can address those things and make a balance in those challenging situations. So I think, look, it is everywhere. There are certain areas we need to be mindful that when we do our research, that if it is, on the one hand, it is sensitive, if it is politically sensitive, but the researcher's role is to identify the truth and doing the research objectively, not actually being political. And that is sometimes in a societal context, we know which areas are sensitive which areas you, and also it is guided by some sort of ethical framework as well, that these are the research you need to, even if you do that one, you need to obtain permission. So that whether I can do the research. So that way you can know that whether any research we do, how we conduct research within that sort of framework. But we always had this issue as well that if you write something which it antagonizes the current regime, that depends on how much space you are given by your department. Sometimes as a government official, often you cannot write certain things. You need to get your department permissions. But academically, when we talk about our academic freedom, freedom of thoughts and knowledge, sharing knowledge, we can actually engage issues which could be even politically sensitive, but we are providing our evidence behind this sort of objective assessment. So it is not simply that I'm writing a political piece or opinion. It is a research. Research is fundamentally, it is neutral. And I'm looking at the scientific, I'm looking at the economic, I'm looking at the social, the other dimensions, not politics. So that way we can perhaps make a balance. Second question I would like to mention, you mentioned how, it's really an important question. Who will initiate the research collaboration? What are the mechanisms in place? It is a uncharted territory at the moment, but often we see that if you are a researcher and if you have the relevant expertise and if you can, showcase your expertise in the relevant industries, can find some sort of synergies and the common grounds, you are the one who will approach the industry. That I have research in this area, and whether we can form collaboration or whether I can support your research. So it's not. We debated this one at our university a long time ago, that we expect that industries will come to us because I'm a well-renowned researcher. But I think practically speaking, it is our responsibility to reach out to the industry and to tell them that what is our research and how that research can have synergies with their work and will provide the benefit. Third one, you mentioned that it's a really good question as well, that how do we do the publications, and we don't have access, how can we do the literature? We don't have access sometime. I think it is, you don't have to be a researcher to do research. And you don't have to have access to world-class resources to start your research. So it all starts with your aptitude, your interest. That we all are doing actually research in our day-to-day activities in different forms. Even when you do the Google search, it could also be a primary part of you when you do the Google search. But these days there are so many online platforms available that you can access those material free. Open plan publications, the journals, you have access. Often your own libraries, national libraries or university libraries, they actually have those resources. You can be a member of the library and you can access through those resources through those libraries. But I think for the basic one, you can have those open access resources. And there are so many commission reports coming from intergovernmental organizations, think tanks, where you can find this information, for doing your research. So that's all I can say. I don't know whether BAPNAS has any resources or any facilities they could actually open to the potential researchers as well.
Okay, thank you, Pak Shawkat. And then Wow, we have a lot of questions. So I would like directly invite Pak Sitorus. Keep it simple, straight, ya Pak. And then Pak Untung Nugroho dan Pak Febri. Okay, we start.
Hello.
Pak Sitorus.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Eko, for giving me time to ask questions. Hello, Pak Shawkat. I just want to ask, novelty and research gap, atau filling the gap of the research is very difficult for us to find. Can you give any recommendations or something like recommendations for us to get the novelty of a research or to filling the research gap? And then regarding the ChatGPT, do you think that ChatGPT or artificial intelligence will replace research or especially planning? Because we can download, we can get any resources from the artificial intelligence. And the third one is I continue with my colleague that asks the resources. If we get the resources from the third party, or we download it from then perhaps you are familiar with the Russian website like that. Is it I think we are not related to ethical norms. I mean that we are wrong because we are downloaded the resources from the secondary or third party, that we want to get the journal that are not open access. And the fourth one is, how do we become a researcher if the environment does not support us to become a researcher? For example, for us in the regional government, we have duty on administrative official office administrations rather than research. Research doing research. Perhaps that the environment will influence us to do research. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you. Thank you, Pak Sitorus. Already 4 questions, so I kind of like remind Pak Untung and Pak Anto, maybe 1 or 2 questions and direct question. Pak Untung first. Please, Pak Untung, open your mic.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Untung Nugroho Harwanto. I am a lecturer and also I'm a PhD student. And also I wrote my question in that room. So I visited your website and I found your expert, Mr. Roy Walker. And I also read one more publication, his publications related to the future of bioethanol. So in my university also, we have a research of this field of bioethanol, and we built a mini plant of bioethanol and also other products. But we have a problem in purifications. So in another side, we have also mini plant of furfural that related to this bioethanol. And if you know that we have also some experts from BRIN, Indonesian Innovation and Research Center. So we work with more expert from BRIN also. And another reason is Indonesia is the highest high produce palm oil. So we do this research. And my question is, how we can start a strategic collaboration with your institutions? I mean, maybe with Mr. Roy Walker, because we have same interest research. And second is, in your research strategy, and world-leading research and world-changing impact. I read this topic is the bioenergy and added value materials from palm oil and empty fruit bunches. But what is your current set priority? I mean, maybe is there any grants that we can join to this kind of research? Thank you. My name is Untung Nugroho, and you can write my question in chat room. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Untung. Last one, Pak Febri.
Okay. Simple question actually. My question is how to start become researcher, because as a local civil servant, we're not familiar with research, but actually we have so many things can be explored. So I need your suggestion step by step how to be a researcher, especially for local government priority. Thank you.
Pak Shawkat, you mind if I add more people?
Please. No, I think I need to add this. Otherwise, I'll forget those questions.
Oh, okay, okay. So
there are too many questions I have to remember.
Okay.
Maybe answer those things briefly. And I understand that some of those questions are better directed to you, Pak, and Pak Wignio, because that involves the institutional sort of support and how, like the question they mentioned that they are administrative research, they are involved in administration. How can they make a balance, and how can they do the research? It is perhaps it brings the question of what's the institutional mechanism to help them do their research and to support them as a researcher. So I will leave this one for your judgment and answer. But quite apart from the other question that I have here, one is how do we know the gaps, and significance of the research when you do the novelty? To determine that, you need a little bit of a research as well, the literature review. You need to do a little bit of a study in the area that you have an interest. So if you read couple of papers or maybe recent events, you can ask those questions that when you read those materials, do you see that all the questions are answered in that particular research framework? Or do you also think that maybe this area has not been looked at? Not every single research will look at every single thing in the world. Of course, they are limited. They're very, very defined. Maybe you can look at, okay, maybe I have read these 3-4 articles. I have nowhere seen this particular area has been addressed in that research. Maybe it is an area which is emerging. There is a gap. Nobody has answered this one. Maybe I will be able to look at it and then you keep searching, keep doing your literature review, and you pull together the questions that this is what I will be looking at. And your questions will be refined as you continue reading. At some point, you can actually test your questions, whether it is original or whether it is addressing a gap with your supervisor. So who has expertise in this area? So when I get a proposal with a research question, then I can immediately tell whether they have been able to identify a gap. Or I will tell them, okay, maybe you can refine this question. Maybe you can look at something else when you look at the gaps. You mentioned the ChatGPT issue as well. Look, it is rapidly evolving. Of course, it is a challenge. It poses a challenge to many industries, particularly the researchers. But we are guided by our own protocol. And I think that ChatGPT cannot replace everything. I have my own research. I was trying to look at that paper I was writing. I was halfway through, and I then search ChatGPT with the content of the paper, and all I found, it is a very, very descriptive part, very general information, and often they could not cite any sources, any literature, and it is so vague, so general, so open. It is not research, and it is maybe elementary information you can get through ChatGPT, but if you ask for the depth and analysis, it is not there. So I don't think that ChatGPT would replace everything, but initially it can replace a lot of stuff like our online quizzes. So we have quizzes in our exam. We are now changing our quizzes because we have seen that online quizzes, answers can be found through ChatGPT. So we are changing our assessment models where you need a little bit of analytical mind. ChatGPT yet does not do that role. Admin research, the relationship, I have actually referred this matter to you, to the BAPNAs. They'll probably look at it. Second question about bioethanol. I think, look, great to know that you are working in that space, and if Macquarie University, the team has expertise in that area, and you would like to collaborate, I think the best way to do it is just to highlight your interest and be in touch with the team at Macquarie, those who are doing that research. You can find their information from Macquarie University website of those relevant researchers. You can just send them an email expressing your interest and the area that you are working on and the potential for your research collaboration. We also have the office in Indonesia, Macquarie University office in Indonesia. Ibu Enda is our country manager, and you can get her details, and you can actually contact her, who can also help you reach out to Macquarie University for collaboration. I think one question similar question I received, that local government, they're working in the local government area, and how can they do the research in the local government area. I think it's if you are involved in the local government administration, I think you can have research in the local government related policy, governance, and your research can be on any particular local government area that you are seeing that could be addressed by either changing legislation or policy or governance approaches. Or maybe you can do some scientific research. If you have the background, you can be part of a group of researchers who have interest in the local government area research or who have done similar research. You can team up with them. Or maybe you can start with a very small piece, a paper investigating the problem in that local government area, whether it's you can talk about land usage planning. You can look at also that maybe local government enforcement, maybe looking at one map policy. There are so many different, or climate change impact on a particular area, look at food security. There are so many areas that local government is directly relevant to. So that's how you can pick up the initial area and start searching and being part of perhaps a much bigger group where you can collaborate.
Okay. Still many, Pak Shawkat. I hope you are ready. And then Bu Emba or Pak Emba, can I hear your voice, Pak Emba?
Yes, yes, Bapak ya. Thank you, Pak Prof. Shawkat, and also Pak Eko as the moderator for this event, and also the committee of this event. A little bit different from the question of my colleagues. I read one of your research output from your profile at the website of the Macquarie University. It is implementation of sustainable development in the global south. I'm not sure whether it is still ongoing or you have the result already, but I'm wondering about your research method for this research output, and also which countries of the global south involved in your research. And last, if you have the result of your research. Maybe if you don't mind, you could share just in brief form for us here in this event. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is still under development. It will be published by Hart Publisher. You're talking about, it's the most recent, it's a book, Implementation of Sustainable Development in the Global South. And you can see that this what we are looking at actually, that when you talk about sustainable development goals, every countries have actually ratified that they will implement sustainable development goals in their respective countries. But nobody is talking about how to implement that in the constraint of our capacity constraints, regulatory frameworks, or poverty. I'm talking about developing countries, developing South. And biggest challenge is also that their own governance framework. So these books actually exposes the challenges that Global South is facing through implementing sustainable development goals in their domestic governance and regulatory frameworks. So what we have done, that in which country we have actually identified areas, and it's not any particular country, but where we have demonstrated case study from select countries where they are looking at these sort of implementation challenges. So yeah, I'm not in a position to share the output yet because it is still under development. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can get the book sometime next year when it is published.
Okay. Thank you, Pak Shawkat. And then maybe this is the last round. Bu Fani, Bu Anissa. Bu Anissa. Okay, Bu Anissa dulu, terus Bu Fani, and then we finish.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you. I am Anissa from the Bapeda of Sulawesi Tenggara. I am very glad to join the
Bu, bisa dibuka anunya, speakernya.
You unmuted.
Ya, Ibu, speakernya belum dibuka, Bu. Bu Anissa, speakernya tolong dibuka, Bu.
Oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Andi Anissa Ahmad from the Bapeda of Southwest Sulawesi. I'm very glad to join the webinar session.
Maaf, Bu Anissa. Mungkin Ibu ada satu ruangan bersama rekannya, volume dari laptop rekannya boleh dikecilkan dulu, Ibu. Dan juga di-mute, sehingga suaranya tidak double. Ya. Mohon maaf, Pak Eko. I'm sorry, Prof.
Ya.
Monggo, Bu.
Terima kasih, Mister. Terima kasih, Miss Julita. Mr. Shawkat, I want to tell you in 2016, I have involved one of research planning into locus local government, one of the Aceh and one of the NTB. In the Aceh, we focus on the impact of the tsunami Aceh. And the second locus, we focus on the local economic development in local community and NTB. In the research, we asked to some stakeholders, such as the local governance, such as NGO and local community, how their recovery after the tsunami impact. And then it's very interesting to learning about how they recovery their neighborhood and livelihood after the tsunami impact. Now, so my question is, after the research, we have to writing as a result of the research. Now, the main problem why we start to writing is how to make a simple and clear narrative on the first line, but very strong argument. So the other reader can understand how we proposal, can understand how we proposal about the result of the the result of our research. The second is how to build the strong team such as a planner local in our local government. Thank you for thank you for Shawkat Alam and the other participants. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, Pak Shawkat, we go to the last one because we already at 11 o'clock. Bu Fani, please, Bu.
Thank you, Mr. Shawkat and Pak Eko, for the opportunity and the knowledge. It gives us more knowledge about it. My question is, and I think it has become a lot problem for people here. Sometimes we have a sudden idea that comes out in our mind, topics and questions, but sometimes we have a problem how we interpreted it and deliver it into a better writing. So my question is, it will be great if you willing to give us some tips to a better writing. Thank you, Mr. Shawkat and Pak Eko.
Thank you, Bu Fani. Thank you, Bu Anissa. And then thank you, everybody. This is kind of like, I'm so sorry that we cannot answer all of the question, and then some question already sort of actually Puspin declared an issue, which is Pak Shawkat already mentioned. Please, Pak Shawkat, for the last session, last round of the question, please.
Okay. I just also wanted to mention that there are so many also questions through the chat box, and I'm not sure whether Jelita will look at some of those, or I don't know how we can deal with them. But briefly speaking, these two things that you mentioned is writing. You are so right that, as a researcher, when we communicate our research output to an audience, there are those who are not, maybe they are not from the same discipline. Often it depends on how you actually communicate. You often, we don't use the technical words. In English, we sometimes say that, how can you express your ideas in plain English? In plain English, how can you do it in a, often we ask people to write that, okay, 50-word statement outlining the purpose and expected outcome of the project. And that's the most difficult part. Then in 50 words, you have to say it in a way that everybody can understand the benefit of your work. That's all you get. So there are ways that we can do this sometimes, and it's all how you do it. You have a goal, you write an abstract, and you divide this abstract into 3 parts. First part, you talk about the aims. Okay. Then you talk about the aims and objectives, and then you talk about what the project is about. Maybe some of this would cover the aims as well. And then you talk about what is the most significance, or what is most significant about your research, how the research impacted the field. 2 sentences or 3 sentences. Last, you mentioned that how you research what is the outcome, what is the output, what is the result, you know, in couple of sentences. So my suggestion here is that when you write it and communicate that one, make it in a clearly different parts, break it down. Don't provide 3-4 different ideas in one sentence. So maybe you have one idea, write a couple of sentences, then start another paragraph, another idea with another few sentences. And the last one, maybe your impact or your output, another few sentences. So that way you know that even if, although you are writing in one paragraph, 3 different ideas and messages, they are all clearly mentioned. Second point is writing, avoid those sort of jargons, avoid those sort of technical words. Imagine yourself that you are giving a press conference. You are going to invite journalists to come and talk to you. So you will have to talk about very, very plain and ordinary people's language, communicate. So that's not you are writing the journal article. It is actually how you are communicating that one in an abstract. And second question you mentioned about writing in writing skills. Look, it will require a particular session. I would not be able to talk about just writing skills in less than a minute. So I suggest that the next workshop that we will have, the things that you feel from this discussion today, you want more details, I think I can then build into that workshop of all those matters. We can have a particular session on writing. We can have a particular session on, you know, the how to interpret data. I've seen some questions here that, you know, we need information on help, how we can interpret data or how we can, you know, analyze data. Those are the things I can factor into our workshop if BPNAS is, you know, accepting that.
Yes, Pak Shawkat, there are a lot of questions, and then like just to last line, writing is actually kind of like tacit knowledge. When you never write, you cannot write. That's the theory. Just like when you ride your bicycle, you cannot read. You have to ride your bicycle, or you swim, then you go to the pool, not just reading. Thank you very much, Pak Shawkat. There are still 9 colleagues that raise hand, but Jelita already mentioned, Pak Eko, we have to stop at 11. So for those, I'm so sorry that we cannot address your question. Pak Shawkat, thank you very much. Everybody, please give big applause for Professor Shawkat. You know, we have really fruitful discussion for almost 1 hour. Thank you very much, Pak Shawkat. See you soon on May in Jakarta. Thank you. Bu Jelita, silakan.
It has been a pleasure, and I look forward to discussing in more details when I come in May, inshallah, to deliver that workshop. Stay well, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Please, everybody, give us Shawkat big applause. Silakan, Bu Jelita.
Yes. Thank you, Prof. Shawkat, and also Pak Eko for the great delivery of the lecturing. And after this, we will have a workshop announcement for the general requirements. But before that, let me show you some websites regarding the journals that are conducted or published by the Pusbintiklatren or CPDEC. This is the GSTEP. We are regularly calling for papers for all of the planners and every civil servants or researchers across Indonesia. And we also have Jurnal Perencanaan Pembangunan or Indonesian Journal of Development Planning. And the other one is BPNAS Working Papers. Both GSDEP and also JPP or Indonesian Journal of Development Planning are published in English. Pak Shawkat also contributed as one of the reviewer for the GSDEP. And also the Bappenas working papers is published in Indonesian. So please kindly check this and publish or submit your articles to us. And then for the questions that probably cannot be answered in this event, please kindly submit it through our channels. The first one is through our Instagram. We always try to disseminate our programs through this Instagram. For Pak Shawkat posters also, and also the other one is for the scholarship offers and many other reports of our activities. And then we also have websites. So everybody who wants to join our programs, please kindly visit our website and click this public information or informasi publik. And here we also updated about the offer of the workshop strategic research planning with Professor Shawkat in May. And after this, I would like to explain how to actually register yourself to the workshop. Mas Hafid, can you help us? Yes. Okay. So before that, there are about 1,395 participants registering to this webinar. Next, Mas Hafid. The backgrounds of the participants is from planners, scholarship grantees, alumni of our programs, others, and also the civil servants. Next, we also try to do the mapping about the participants' background in research program, and most of them stated that they haven't been involved in any research program. So we encourage you to actually do more research and publish your articles specifically to the journals that is conducted by the PusbinTalk and Bappenas. And then next, actually, this is the insight that we've been gathered from the participants. For Professor Shawkat, this is actually the word cloud that we take from the question on research topic interest, and most of them stating the planning, public policy, regional, digital, sustainable, bencana or disaster, anggaran or finance, health, and many other issues that might be the potential research topic for the workshop participants. Next, Mas Hafid. So we invite you, all of the webinar participants today, to join or register yourself to the workshop on strategic research planning with Professor Shawkat. This will be conducted physically or luring Bapak Ibu. Jadi Bapak Ibu yang ada di webinar ini, kami menawarkan untuk Bapak Ibu mendaftar pada program workshop secara luring bersama Profesor Shawkat. Fasilitasnya semua fully funded untuk Bapak Ibu yang berada di Jabodetabek dan akan co-sharing dengan Bapak Ibu yang berada di luar Jabodetabek. Mekanismenya seperti apa kami akan jelaskan. Please next, Mas Hafid. So the first one, the workshop would try to deepen our understanding from the knowledge that we have grasped to this from this webinar, and then to understand and practice on how to do research, and also sharpening our critical thinking skill. Next, Mas Hafid. So this is the difference between the webinar and also the workshop. The webinar is kind of understand or the basic skills of the research itself, but the workshop would have a practical competence for all of the planners and also the civil servants and also the targeted participants coming from academics and any other potential participants. So its aims is to understand, determine and prepare strategic research planning, reenact and experience the process of choosing the potential research collaboration, display and judge the discourse of the ethical norms in governing research, articulate evidence-based policy, and also on how to publish research on indexed journals, publishers, both nationally and internationally. Next, Mas Hafid. when and where the workshop will be conducted. The place would be announced later during the briefing for the selected participants only. The date, this is to be discussed with Professor Shawkat Alam, but it might be at the end of May. And then also it's a one-day workshop program and the participants selected would be 15. So 15 orang akan terpilih dari acara webinar ini untuk mengikuti workshop selama 1 hari bersama dengan Profesor Shawkat. Next, Mas Hafid, the agenda, participant will be asked to, so this is the schedule, the time schedule. The registration period is from 11 to 28th of April, and also from the 1st to 4th of May will be the selection process from our team, and then the selected participants announcement will be on May 8th. And then also the May 10th, we would have like the selected participants briefing. And the workshop, the date may change, and we will also inform it to the selected participants later on the briefing event. Next, Mas Hafid. There will be group discussion and also individual presentation during the workshop. So please, the selected participants could prepare their research plan from now on and submit it to us to register yourself to join the workshop. And then next, Mas Hafid, what is the general requirements for this workshop? The offer letter is in Indonesian and we have published it on our website. Please kindly download it through our website. The first one is peserta workshop hanya yang mengikuti webinar PusbinTalk pertama ini dibuktikan dengan kepemilikan nomor sertifikat. Sertifikat akan kami terbitkan nanti di tanggal 14, jadi hanya akan diterbitkan kepada Bapak Ibu yang tadi mengisi daftar hadir. Lalu peserta workshop terpilih akan mendapatkan fasilitas akomodasi sejak tanggal 17 sampai 19 Mei, tetapi tanggalnya bisa berubah. Pembiayaan peserta di luar Jabodetabek dilakukan dengan mekanisme cost sharing atau komponen pembiayaan. Fasilitas nanti akan dijelaskan di surat, juga sudah tertera jelas apa saja yang diterima peserta. Dalam hal peserta membutuhkan tiket pesawat, transportasi lokal, atau tiket kereta, ini akan menjadi tanggungan instansi asal peserta. Tetapi untuk transportasi di dalam Jabodetabek semua ditanggung oleh Pusbindiklatren Bappenas. Pengumuman peserta akan disampaikan melalui surat pemanggilan. Peserta yang sudah dinyatakan diterima tidak diperkenankan mengundurkan diri dengan alasan apapun. Peserta wajib mengikuti seluruh rangkaian kegiatan workshop dan wajib membawa prasarana pribadi seperti laptop untuk pendukung. Next, for the participant requirements, pegawai negeri sipil minimal golongan 3A, CPNS tidak diperbolehkan untuk mendaftar. Jadi memang kita targeted hanya untuk PNS saja, pendidikan minimal D4 atau S1 dari berbagai jurusan. Diprioritaskan yang pernah menulis atau terlibat dalam riset dan diprioritaskan yang memiliki sertifikat bahasa Inggris. Ini tidak harus masih dalam masa berlaku, jadi boleh yang sudah expired. Lalu instansi asal di level pusat maupun daerah, surat nominasi dan kesediaan pembiayaan cost sharing yang ditandatangani oleh minimal level eselon 2. Semua tertera dalam surat penawaran yang sudah kami upload di website. Next, Mas Hafid. And then for the document requirements, you need to prepare your nomination letter from your upper or your boss, and then kesediaan pembiayaan cost sharing, and then you need to fulfill the form biodata peserta that can be accessed through this link. All must be submitted in English, and also your portfolio dalam bahasa Inggris jika ada akan diprioritaskan. You have to submit your link. Only the link, not your articles in PDF or something, but the link. Next, Mas Hafid. The facilities provided for the participants. The first one is akomodasi. Dengan sistem 1 kamar diisi 2 orang. Konsumsi pada tanggal pelaksanaan, uang harian full, dan uang saku full board. Transportasi at cost, di wilayah Jabodetabek dan instansi asal untuk membiayai di luar wilayah Jabodetabek, lalu materials pada workshop on strategic research planning with Professor Shawkat Alam and also the certificate workshop. Next, Mas Hafid. The question list can be accessed to, through the offer letter. There are some questions regarding your English competence, research competence or research skill, research experience, and also your expectation by joining this workshop. Next, the certificate of the webinar can be downloaded from 14th of April 2023, and the certificate number is needed to apply to this workshop. So Bapak Ibu, kami mengundang Bapak Ibu semua untuk ikut dalam workshop, mendaftar dalam workshop. Untuk Bapak Ibu, apabila membutuhkan sertifikat, nanti akan diupload pada tanggal 14. Mungkin bisa ditutup share screen-nya, Mas Hafid. Saya izin menunjukkan offer letter-nya. Sini sudah tertera lengkap. Apabila ada kesulitan, Bapak Ibu silakan langsung menghubungi nomor WhatsApp kami yang tertera di bagian bawah dari website kami. Di sini kita akan menyediakan call center bagi yang kesulitan. Untuk seluruh penawarannya sudah ada di sini, siapa yang bisa mendaftar, dokumen apa, dan pertanyaan apa saja yang harus di-provide Bapak Ibu dalam pendaftaran untuk workshop ini. Pendaftaran workshopnya ditutup tanggal 28, jadi Bapak Ibu yang mau mendaftar dipersilakan untuk mendaftar sampai April 28, 2023. That's all probably for the workshop announcement. Is there any additional information from Prof. Shawkat or Pak Eko? No additional information? Okay, that's probably enough. If any questions from the participants or potential participants to join the workshop, please kindly contact us through our social media and also WhatsApp contact. And for the last one, we would like to invite Pak Wiknyo. Pak Wiknyo, are you staying in this Zoom room or? Yes. Pak Wiknyo, please kindly give us a closing speech, Pak Wiknyo, and encourage the participants here to join the workshop session, Pak Wiknyo.
Okay, thank you very much, Jelita. Of course, we would like to appreciate and big thank Professor Shawkat and Professor Eko. That was a great lecture and great discussion, Professor Shawkat. I noticed that many participants so far, we still at least 400 participants still waiting for you, Professor Shawkat. And I also noticed that some of the participants would like to discuss, but not yet having the opportunity because the time is run out. But I would like also to mention again that this is not the first webinar that we would like to share and provide it to all of the participants. We would like also now preparing about the others webinars and not only webinar actually, we would like to conduct the webinar following up by the workshop. So not just on the webinar, so we would like the following up every webinar with the real workshop or any activities that can be something like implement by the some participant. So next, we would like also to introduce some new program that we are preparing for the new adherents. Especially, we are now preparing about the academic paper writing camp, and then also book writing camp, and then policy paper writing camp, or article, popular article writing camp, especially for the planners that we can combining with the webinar and workshop. So please our announcement, and then you can also submit and also participate. So again, thank you very much, Professor Shawkat, Professor Eko, all of the participants. Hope that we can continue and expand our program to provide it and to improve our capacity in planning process. So thank you again. We can conclude this session by saying Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you for the speech, Pak Wiknyo, and for all of the participants who want to rerun or rewatch this seminar. It can be accessed through our YouTube channel 24 hours after the seminar ended. So tomorrow morning, you can rewatch this session with Prof. Shawkat Alam. And also, as what Pak Wiknyo mentioned, this is not the first PusbinTalk that we will have, but we will have some kind of monthly PusbinTalk. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow our media social to receive information regarding our programs. Probably that's all for today's session. We would like to thank Professor Shawkat, Pak Eko, and also Pak Wiknyo, and also all of the participants. We hope that you are all in a good condition today and have a very good day. Thank you very much. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Case you didn't know.